So, true mastermind style. Okay. What's your name?
My name is James Hawksworth.
Specialist subject?
Specialist subjects?
I knew we run through the questions, but...
I suppose I'm quite passionate about what I do, so my specialist subject revolves around my faith, outreach, mission, that kind of thing.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So, you talked about that it revolves around what you do.
Yeah.
What do you do?
All right, okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, for starters, so folks get a bit of flavour. Who do you work for? Let's start with that.
Okay.
And who are the people that you work for?
Okay, so I work for an organisation called Church Army. Does anybody know Church Army? Does anybody here think that it's the Salvation Army? Or Jesus' army? It's neither of those. Church Army it's an organisation that was set up in 1882 by an Anglican priest, a curate called Wilson Carlisle, and one of the things that he started to observe about the community is that the gap between church and the community life was becoming more and more estranged. So what he wanted to do was set up mission and evangelism to bridge that gap again. So they were there like the Salvation Army during the war, handed out cigarettes and that kind of thing. So they're always famous for cigarettes for some reason. But yeah, handing out packages to soldiers and what have you. They did things like going into the pubs. But the thing that he really focused on was training the lay ministry, the lay people in the church. So you and me, the people that sit in the chairs in the congregation, to actually go out and reach into their community in meaningful ways. So that's what they do now. Yeah. Okay.
And what do you do? So right here on the estate, what do you do?
Right, okay. So my title is a pioneer youth enabler. So what I do, my kind of remit is to develop youth churches. So I'm here for 5 years with the hope that that'll be extended. So you get a 5-year contract basically, and then they weigh up how you do. If you do all right, then they renew your contract. If not, they get rid of you. So my job is you move on to an estate. So we moved about 18 months ago, just under, and you've got a blank sheet basically. So you're there. You have to make your own connections with people, with churches, with schools, and try to develop something meaningful within a community. In this case, it's working with primary school, secondary school, and Suffolk One as well, so the sixth form college in the area, to try and develop faith-filled communities for young people, basically. So that's what we're doing.
And I didn't spot because I heard you say that you knew Bella.
She's in the...
So you're working at Sprites?
I work at Sprites, yes,
okay.
yeah. I'm in there twice a week. So what I do is I take generally 3, 4, 5 and 6 age groups, year groups, out of and do one-to-one work with them. So the people that they've handed to me to do one-to-one work with are people that are struggling home life, or they may be just really struggling with school. At the moment, the year 6s are really struggling with the thought of going to secondary school. Some of them are really looking forward to it and are welcoming that. But there's a select group of young people that are scared to death of going to secondary school. Yeah. So part of what I want to develop with them is a youth group for year 6s, 7s and 8s. My hope is that will become a place that kind of resolves some of this transitional issue. Because if you're a year 6 going into a year 7 and you know all the year 7s because they come to a youth club, then straight away they're going to feel a lot more comfortable about moving to secondary school. You know.
Let me wind back a bit for
Right.
2 things. One, if I can, I'm hoping this is true, but you only know Bella through seeing her. You've not been past Bella because she's part of a troubled household.
Yes. Well, she did throw stones at me. No, she didn't really. She's fine. Yeah, I saw her. I think they were in the lunch clue, and I thought, oh, I've seen your face before. And then I was here this morning. I thought, oh, I've seen your face before. So I just made the connection there. Yeah, so that's all right. Yeah, she was really wavy at me, which is very nice. Yeah.
And so before we get into specifically us and why you're here, how did you get into all this in the first place?
Well, it's quite a long story, but I'll try and summarise. So I grew up on near an estate where I kind of grew up in the same kind of way that as a lot of the kids on the estate, we were quite poor. I eventually got quite heavily into kind of recreational drugs in my teens and lots of alcohol, and eventually I was kicked out at 16. I was passed around family quite a lot right up till I was 16, and then thought, right, I've got no choices now, so I was on my own. So just through that lifestyle itself, I got compassion for kids that are in that lifestyle. So part of the problem that I had wasn't that I was a bad kid. I don't think any of the kids see themselves as bad kids. They just find themselves in a lifestyle with a particular group of friends, and when life does turn and go sour, because that lifestyle often does lead that way, you don't know what's wrong. You don't know what's gone wrong. Why am I feeling like this? How do I solve this? How do I get out of this? I lose all my friendship groups. So you're trapped in this thing that you just can't get out of, and it's just got its own. It develops its own momentum, and it's always downhill. And for me, I got to the point where I was living in this flat on my own, and destitute. Really, I was very poor. I lost contact with friends. I tried to get rid of all my family. No, the other way around. I lost all my family, and I tried to ditch all of those friends in that sense. So I spent about a year in this flat on my own. Didn't know anybody, didn't have anybody. The only company that I had, I didn't even have a TV, the only company I had was a packet of cards and the newspaper shop owner opposite where I lived. And he really did allow me to just go there and talk to him for a while, just until it got awkward, because I was there too long, and then I'd shoot off again. So that's the kind of life that I had. And leading up to moving into this flat, I burgled my mum and my brothers to get my brother's music system, basically. So I wanted to sell that for drugs. And he caught me. You don't touch your brother's stuff, do you? So he caught me, basically, and that's what led to me being in this flat, really. And he became a Christian a few weeks before, I think it was a few weeks before I burgled him. And about a year later, he found out where I lived. Because if you move into a flat at 16, your parents know where you live, because it's on that condition. So my older brother came and visited and forgave me, and he told me about Jesus, and oh, that's great. Look, I'm not getting a kick in. That's fine. I'm all right with that. I let him out the door, and I went back into my sitting room, bedsit, and I just felt God's presence fill the room, and it was the first time I felt a sense of peace, a sense of joy. I felt like I had a sense of purpose. It all kind of hit at the same time. It was quite a phenomenal experience. And I just stood up and I was pacing the room and going, that's it now. I want to live for you. I really want to live for you now. That's it. You're my God. You're my Lord. And about a week later, my brother came back round with a Bible. And he just said, put a bookmark, one in Genesis, one in Job, one in Matthew, and just read a chapter from each a day. And you get through it just over a year. So that's what I did. And when I got to Acts, I was blown away by some of the mission endeavours within Acts, some of the journeys that Paul, Peter and Barnabas were making. And I thought, flipping out, that's what I want to do, that's what I want to do. And then that kind of went by the wayside a little bit after the loneliness kicked in a bit more. And then eventually I met Laura. That was a few years later. And then that call started to disturb me, I suppose. I started to recognise I want to be in ministry. I want to pursue this because I want to do this full time. I want to do something productive with my faith, and I want to live it out. So I got in touch with a few different organisations, and Church Army was the only one that was offering it for free. So I thought, well, I'm called. I'm definitely called to that one. Yeah, so I went and trained with Church Army.
Okay, so we can kind of see why you would be interested in kids who are struggling. What's your vision, for want of a better word, for this area right now?
Yeah, okay. I'm aware that vision develops as you're in a place. So a lot of my work is a little bit like a missionary organisation that goes to a different country. I just don't like going abroad. So what you normally do is you go in with that same mindset. You're going into a new culture, because a lot of these kids are second, third generation non-churched kids now that we're working with. So it's not like we're, do you remember that story about Jesus, or do you remember that story about Moses? They've not got that. So the kids that I'm working with don't have that info. So you kind of develop your kind of vision through that. But I'd really like to see a community of young people that, one, have a voice, that they know that they're valued, that they see Jesus and find freedom. I want that to be a shared experience. My hope is that by the time young people start to think, what's faith about, and we start to explain that to them, 80% of the conversation that we have is already because they know the backdrop of the community that we've set up for them. So they can say, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see how that's lived out in this group that we're a part of. Actually, that person forgave me when I smashed the window. Or that person forgave me when I scratched their car. Or they start to see that love of Christ in their community space. And I'd really like to see them think about how they can then venture out of their little group, their immediate community, and actually reach out to those in the wider community as well. So I want to see young people start to being trained as leaders. So it's all members doing this. And when we start to see that, they become a powerful voice for other young people, their peers in the area, and it has a knock-on effect.
Fabulous. How can we help? I guess as a church, as individuals, how can we help?
Well, there's a few different things, I suppose. One is I'm looking for buildings to run these things from. So with this church is right next door to Sprites. So really, really handy to be able to set something like that up here on an evening where that's free. So that would be really good. And volunteers, we want people that represent our faith. So I work with. I've got a few volunteers ready, but they're sympathetic to our faith, but they're not Christians. And it would be really good to have a group of people that can represent our faith well in these kind of spaces. So if you fancy being a volunteer of this exciting thing, that would be fantastic. Prayer support would be amazing when we start meeting. One of the things I'd really love to do is just to be able to put prayers out on whether it's Facebook or newsletters and just say, this group of kids needs our attention in prayer or support. But a lot of it is recognising that we are. There's a verse in, I can't remember which book it is now in the Bible, but it says we are epistles of Christ. We're living letters of Jesus, and actually that's the kind of environment we're trying to create, so that they're engaging not by teaching as such, but more they're starting to see who Christ is because they see us and witness us. So yes, if you think you can do that, talk to me. I'd also just recommend that. If you talk to me about it, I will never throw you in the deep end, and you will never be left on your own. So if you think this is something that I want to do, but I'm scared, because it's young people. Be aware that you'll never be on your own, and I will always make sure you're safe in a situation, because that's how I function,
Yeah.
you know. But the idea is that we are a community, and we're extending our community by welcoming more and more young people into it, so it always has that ethos of care and support for each person, even us as the volunteers.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so just so you know, Greenfinch has offered this building. You're going to be taking this up, and there will be a group meeting on Friday night here.
Fridays, yeah.
So if you can help in any way, if you want to volunteer, it would be fantastic. But if you can pray, that would be great,
Yes,
and we'll commit to that and look to set something up for that as well. Can I pray for you now?
Yes,
And,
please do.
yeah,